spent his days and nights with his merry friends in Sherwood Forest. Robin Hood, Friar Tuck, Little John and friends, dressed mostly in natural colors to hide away easily in the woods. They were known as heroes who helped all in need, always outsmarting the evil sheriff of Nottingham. The sheriff vowed to capture Robin and his band, so he came up with a plan. The sheriff called for his men and said, "There is to be an archery contest with an arrow of pure gold as the prize. Robin Hood and his fellows will try to win the treasure. Then we will arrest them." The others agreed that this was a clever way to catch the outlaws. News of the contest spread far and wide. When Robin Hood heard about the prize, he told his friends, "The sheriff has set a challenge we cannot ignore. No one can match us with the bow and arrow." Friar Tuck warned, This is a trick of the sheriff's. It will trap us." But Robin Hood's mind was made up. So he asked, "Who joins me in this adventure?" Little John said, "If we must, we will follow. But we must go disguised. Hurry, let's go. We must enter town at different times." While all of Robin Hood and his merry friends were changing into new clothes, the sheriff and his men planned the contest. He told his men, "Watch very carefully for anyone dressed in green or in natural colors." The sheriff said, "You must find him. This is our goal. Robin Hood wears this color so he can sneak away into the forest, but he will not escape us. Not this time." On the day of the contest, Robin and his men traded their familiar green outfits for clothes quite unusual. Sashes, scarves, garments. The sheriff viewed the event from afar. At his signal, the first archers stood before the targets. All the while, the sheriff and his spies watched eagerly for fellows dressed in green, but none were dressed fully in green. Disappointed, the sheriff studied all the archers and then said, "Well, that beggar there is as tall as Robin Hood, but his rags are torn. Quite unusual." Finally, after several rounds, only 2 archers remained. Robin and the sheriff's favorite, Gilbert. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Only Robin Hood could shoot better than these fellows." Angry at hearing such praise, the sheriff cried, "This outlaw is a coward who doesn't show his face. He knows these brave bowmen are better than him." Robin whispered to Friar Tuck, "Soon the sheriff will eat his words." Gilbert, the sheriff's favorite man, fitted his final arrow to his bowstring. He took care loosened the shaft, it flew straight and lodged but a hairbreadth from dead center. The crowd cheered, and the sheriff, smiling proudly, applauded Gilbert. Then the other archer, in red, drew his bow, held the arrow for a moment, sighted the target, and let it fly. To everyone's amazement, his arrow struck dead center, so near Gilbert's shaft that it shaved off part of one feather. The stranger had won. So the sheriff, sadly, had to present the golden arrow to the red-clad beggar. As he did, he asked, "What is your name, and where do you come from?" "My name is Jacques of Glendale," Robin answered. "Well, Jacques, I can always use a fine archer. Will you work for me?" The beggar replied, "No, I will remain my own master." The sheriff was angry and stormed off, with his men following behind. Meanwhile, Robin and his merry men took different routes back to Sherwood Forest, ever watchful for spies. They went through town and were very, very careful to not be spotted. When they met again, back in Sherwood Forest, they gathered together. They happily gathered and feasted and praised Robin's success. But Robin said, "The victory will not be complete until we have let the sheriff know who has truly won his prize." So little John wrote a poem. He carefully tied it to an arrow and gave it to Robin Hood. Then the merry friends hurried their way back to Nottingham. Outside the great hall where the sheriff sat feasting, Robin stood and carefully aimed for the window. He shot the arrow with the note through the tall, brightly lit window. The shaft buried itself in the table just as the sheriff was preparing to carve the plump goose. Furious, the sheriff snatched the poem, which one of his servants had untied it and held it out to him. Growing red with rage, he read, "Your lordship, now the tale is told, from highest hall to deepest wood, that today you gave your arrow of gold to the bravest archer, Robin Hood?" Oh, he was furious. Robin and his friends listened to the sheriff bellowing a few moments longer. Then, laughing, they returned to Sherwood, where they looked forward for many more adventures to come.
longer.
Me too.